How can distributors leverage NAED better, and what are they missing out on?
You have to lean in. You have to engage with NAED. Distribution is a contact sport. We have small distributor members, we have large distributor members, and the needs of each of those members is different.
With AI and everything out there, what is NAED doing in this regard?
One is just educating membership around the AI boom and what's happening. And then two, with the allied partners that NAED has, bringing AI solutions to membership to help automate processes that happen every day in our businesses in distribution.
The data centers, it's like the gold rush. It's really helping the electrical distribution industry. So what are you saying?
It's really about speed of delivery and the services that you can provide locally to help make sure that that project gets done on time and in full. I think if there's a small distributor in a local market that can provide that level of service, then great. But otherwise, there are large companies, large distributors across the landscape that have built the capacity to be able to service this market more specifically. It is constantly changing. And, a data center that's built today isn't going to be the same data center that's going to be built a year from now or 5 years from now. They're going to look different. The footprint's going to look different. I don't know how yet, but we know that innovation is going to continue to happen.
I'm Karthik Chidambaram, founder and CEO of DCCAP, an ERP-first integration platform built for distributors and manufacturers. On the Driven by DCCAP podcast, I sit down with industry leaders, innovators, and change makers to explore what's driving success in distribution, manufacturing, technology, and the industry as a whole. Real conversations, real insights. You don't want to miss this.
Paul Kennedy began his career in the Navy, found his footing in the trades as a plumber, and worked his way through the ranks of electrical distribution, ultimately becoming president and CEO of DSG, one of the industry's most celebrated employee-owned companies, known for its deep roots in community and culture. Today, Paul brings his decades of hands-on experience as board chair of NAED, the premier trade association dedicated to advancing and protecting the electrical distribution channel. Paul shares what's on the horizon for electrical distributors and why the rise of AI might be their biggest opportunity yet.
Paul, first off, thank you. It's great to see you again. And before we even start this conversation, I want to say a big thank you. I really enjoyed my time spent in Minneapolis last year. Thanks for the DSG tour. It was a trip I will remember.
That's great. Thanks, Karthik. Good to be with you again. And I followed you as got exposed to you when you came up to see us in Plymouth, and then have been following the other conversations you're having. So really appreciate your thought leadership.
This means a lot to us, Paul. And also good to be here at NAED in Atlanta. Congratulations on hosting a great conference. You're the current board chair. So tell us, for a distributor out there, how can distributors leverage NAED better, and what are they missing out on?
Yeah, so my first kind of take on how can a distributor leverage what NAED is you have to lean in. You have to engage with NAED. Distribution is a contact sport, and you need to really understand all that NAED offers distributors. And they're offering, we have small distributor members, we have large distributor members, and the needs of each of those members is different. So NAED tries to, curate an offering that kind of satisfies both ends of the spectrum. But you need to engage. It's not gonna happen to you. You've got to participate.
You got to lean in, like
yes,
you said.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed my time spent at NAED this week in Atlanta, and also enjoyed the general sessions as well. Great content. One thing which was a big learning for me is learning about the data centers and how it's like the gold rush and how it's really helping the electrical distribution industry. So mostly it's like the bigger distributors who would be able to capitalize on this, or even it's the smaller distributors can capitalize on this, or what are you seeing?
Yeah, so, data centers, and I think we heard today during the general session that, price may be secondary. It's really about speed of delivery and the services that you can provide locally to help make sure that that project gets done on time and in full. So I think if there's a small distributor in a local market that can provide that level of service, then great. But otherwise, there are large companies, large distributors across the landscape that have built the capacity to be able to service this market, more specifically.
And speed is the name of the game. And let's say if the data center is not operational on a particular time, they lose millions of dollars every day.
Absolutely. I don't know what the number is, but it's a big number. Is basically just lost because that data center is not up and operational.
And is data center, we were just talking about it prior as well, right? So this looks strong till 2045. That's what, we learned. But then there's also a lot of change happening just in tech, right? On how the chips are being built. And that's something which was talked about in the general session this morning. But then when that happens, then the business changes as well. And the need for the different kinds of product changes. Maybe I stock up a lot of inventory and then a few months down the line, there's no need anymore. And speed is the name of the game, like you rightly said. So how do we deal with that?
Yeah, I think really open and transparent communication with our, with the developers that are building out these projects and also with our manufacturing partners. I mean, I think that is really key to make sure that we're having open and transparent conversations around timeline and what's coming, and then staying curious about how the data center landscape is changing and the new products, whether it's chips or cooling or whatever the case may be, because it is constantly changing. And, a data center that's built today isn't going to be the same data center that's going to be built a year from now or 5 years from now. They're going to look different. The footprint's going to look different. I don't know how yet, but we know that innovation is going to continue to happen.
And talking about innovation, and also NAED owns organizations like The Idea. And what are you seeing, right? I mean, being on the distribution side of the business and also being a part of the association, are you seeing a lot of distributors adopting to the latest tech that's out there with AI and everything out there? Or what is NAED doing in this regard?
Yeah. So I think a couple of places that NAED is participating. One is just educating membership around the AI boom and what's happening. So last year presented a white paper on electrification and then how that feeds into AI and AI factories, one, and then two, with the allied partners that NAED has, bringing AI solutions to membership to help automate processes that happen every day in our businesses in distribution.
And you not just work on NAED or you not just serve NAED, but you're also on the board of AD.
Correct.
Yeah. So how do you find time for all this?
Well, I've got a great team back at DSG, so that's one part. I lean into these opportunities because I'm curious and I learn so much. And anytime I can put myself in a room with a whole bunch of people that are smarter than I am, I usually come out of there learning something. And that's been the case on the NAED board, and it's also been the case on the AD board.
And what are distributors, right? I mean, I think, the larger distributors, they share the knowledge with the smaller ones. I think it really helps them. And it's also inspirational in a way, right? Because let's say, this NAED is not just an association for the big players, but also a lot of small players who aspire to get there. So do you also have knowledge sharing sessions where, I know that's what this conference is for, but what are you doing in that regard, so to get the smaller players up there?
Well, part of it is just creating the opportunity for, creating the opportunity to share best practices and to be in a room together, large distributors, small distributors, manufacturing partners, allied partners. So anytime we have the opportunity to create space for those conversations to happen, we feel like we're lifting the entire distribution channel up. The other thing as part of the offering that NAED has is, there's input from large distributors, there's input from small distributors. So I think, while large distributors sometimes have scale and there's this thought that, boy, a small distributor can't compete with that. But a lot of times a small distributor is more nimble and can provide a level of service that maybe a large one can't. So I think there is room and for opportunities for both to learn from each other.
Yeah, I've been talking to quite a few people here, especially on the technology space. And one thing I learned is, it's kind of, it's mostly the smaller, the mid-sized distributors who are going to be leading the AI game because they are very nimble, like you said, right? So I think that's a big opportunity I see there, for the smaller or the mid-sized distributor to leverage tech, because there's not a lot of bureaucracy there. You just move fast. I think that's something I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think as long as there's a curiosity and an interest, right, to invest in tech and to be open to doing something differently than you've always done. Sometimes larger companies move a little bit. They're willing to make those investments maybe a little bit sooner sometimes, but the small and mid-sized distributors that have a level of curiosity and are forward progressive thinking around technology are the ones that are winning every day.
And one last question here, right? So with respect to the new generational workforce that's coming up, I know you are doing a lot of stuff at DSG, but what is NAED doing in this regard? Because how are you generating interest for the new workforce to take up distribution or to get into manufacturing and all that? What is NAED or associations like NAED doing in this regard?
Yeah, so there's a lot of focus on that as we think about, the exodus of this knowledge base, right? So I think there's a couple of different ways. One is just driving the education down to the lowest level, talking high schools, creating recruitment videos and recruitment. So NAED is doing a lot of work around workforce development, creating programs for their distributor members to go out and recruit. So attaching value to the membership, one, but two, creating a storybook about what it means to be in electrical distribution. So, a distributor member can go out and sell electrical distribution as a career opportunity in high schools, in colleges, in local job fairs and things like that. So I think that's one big piece. I think another piece is understanding that technology can help close this gap, right? As we have this exodus of knowledge, how does technology play into, onboarding and bringing up to speed this next crop of employees coming in who don't have 30 or 40 years of experience? But, how can technology and AI start to equalize that?
Is that the NAED Foundation? Is that the work that does? Or is there something called the NAED Foundation?
So there is the NAED Research Foundation. So NERF, which is a part of NAED. So a lot of investment and endowments have been given to NERF to that's the research arm of NAED, where they're thinking about these types of problems and developing research and solutions to help their members move forward in a new world.
And one more thing, which I think is very important is women in distribution. And the more women get into the distribution workforce, the better it is. So what is NAED doing on that?
A lot. So, Women in Industry is NAED's single largest conference that they put on in a year. Last year I was there. There were 1,100 women there. This year, the planning is in place to be able to accommodate 1,400 women. So by far the largest conference that NAED produces. And if you think about it, women make up 50% of the population. So, we weren't catering and curating content to that cohort of potential, employees for the longest time. And so I'm super excited that NAED has really stepped into that and, continues to broaden the reach into the women in industry cohort.
Winning teams have women in them. So, Paul, there's obviously business challenges, which we need to deal with. But when you talk about business challenges, there are some external climate which we don't control, because there are a lot of things happening outside our industry. The new laws are being put and all that, right? So what's NAED doing? How are you being an advocate for the industry?
Yeah, so NAED has a government relations function that we have a person in DC who actually sits inside NECA's office. So, our sister organization, the Electrical Contractors Association, that does advocacy work on behalf of electrical distribution. So, right now, some of the big topics they're tackling are the VET Act. So it's to bring veterans into the workforce. So streamlining that, and the government is, providing assistance there. It's looking at codes and standards and, hey, where are there opportunities that we can work with our sister organizations, NECA, NEMA, NEMRA, to have a common platform and advocate together for, the entire electrical distribution industry.
And do you also work closely with the NAW, or you do your own thing?
So on the advocacy front, not so much in coordination with NAW, but there are a lot of members who are NAD members and NAW members. And I think they each have a different value proposition.
Paul, is there anything else going on at NAED which distributors should know about?
All the basics of conferences and putting distributors and suppliers together in environments at our conferences. I think the workforce development that we talked about earlier is a big initiative of NAED. I think government relations that we talked about, so the regulatory environment and understanding what's happening there. Leadership development, so providing curriculum to allow distributor members to develop their leadership talent, with the help of NAED. And then there's product training, EPIC, which is kind of a cornerstone of NAED's offering, and continuing to iterate on that to make sure that we've got a trained workforce in electrical distribution.
So Epic is the product training program that you offer for distributors.
Yes. Yep.
Cool.
And it's right now it had been pretty manual process, and we're kind of morphing. And how do we start leveraging AI in keeping Epic relevant, current, and kind of in the format that today's up and coming employee wants to consume that sort of information and that training.
And are you also creating video content in terms of training? Because I think that'll also help, right? Because let's say you create video content and put it out there on YouTube, not just NAED members, but other people could watch as well. Is there anything you're doing on that regard?
Sure. So I think NAED is doing some of that, but most of that is housed in NAED for the benefit of our members. Yeah.
So Paul, thank you so much for joining this conversation.
You bet. Thank you, Karthik.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on this learning journey. At DCCAP, we love sharing what we learn, and we also make your data flow better. Your ERP is the heart of your operations. DCCAP is the brain. We make sure your data connects seamlessly across all your systems. To know more about us, please visit dccap.com. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any distribution secrets. Catch you on a new episode soon.